Yeah, I came here as a 13-year-old child. Yeah. Yeah, 1962. I was 13. And when I came here from the West Indies to my mum, and I walked in the door and I wanted to go back because, you know, it seems to me that this England that they talk about, painted with gold, it was like walking into poverty.
Yeah.
And I hated it, really hated it. And it was a small terrace with, she had about how many children then? She had two girls, and a boy. She had three children.
Yeah.
And like we had two bedrooms and an attic.
Yeah.
So we had to go in the attic, and the children was in one room on their own. And it was a coal fire, and it was a poor home, and I hated it because I'm used to back home, believe it or not. We had a massive land that you could run on it, do whatever,
Yeah.
and had anything you wanted. And my granddad was a joiner, and he worked hard when he worked at the hospital. So there was nothing short, and we didn't short of anything really. Went on holidays and did things. And when I came to my mum, it was like a coal fire,
Yeah.
small kitchen, a little cooker, outside toilet, and I hated it all. Really hated it. Of course, then I went to school, and it was winter time. But obviously, I wanted to see the winter time.
Yeah.
And then coming back home to have my dinner with the children, and it was that her husband was working and she wasn't working, so things were very hard at the time. And so that was it. I wanted to get out. I wanted to go home. You see, go back. But because if my grandparents had died, it wasn't possible. So I had to stay with my mom and a stepdad and the children. And as I said, it was hard work because I'm not used to children around me, you see, being the only child from my grandparents, only grandchild, and to share everything. There was no bathroom. We used to have a bathroom at the back. There was no bathroom. You had to have a bath in the front room, and it was like a tin bath.
Yeah.
And you had to fill it with water, hot water, go to the kitchen, get the water, fill the bath. So that means a Sunday, if anyone comes, you can't open the door. And it was like there was no carpet on the floor. It was a lino and a little settee, a little TV, and a fireplace. But you have to depend on that one fire to keep the house warm. And then when it's bedtime, you got to go up there and poke the fire and put some coal on it in the attic, and it was freezing cold. So it wasn't a very good experience.
Yeah.
And then going to school, my mum had to buy me school things, which she couldn't really afford. Really, she was struggling. So that didn't go down well. I couldn't get the things I wanted.
Yeah.
And I was used to getting things I wanted. So, but one thing, when I came here, the West Indians coming from the Caribbean here, we were a policy to always have a hair done, always look nice. So that was good because you were surrounded by West Indians who are Caribbean, who had the hair looking nice and looking good, dressed well. And even though things wasn't very easy, things were hard with them, but you would never know that. So that's one good thing. Yes, it was really a sense of community because everybody would visit each other and have talk to each other. and build each other up, and then you'd meet them on the market.
Yeah.
The market, the marketplace in Nottingham at Huntingdon Street was an old market, and we all used to go there, walk in and walk out, and we'll see everybody. And then we used to go on the open market on a Saturday. And then we'll meet our friends and everybody. And they had parties a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of parties. And the thing is, they sold the drinks, so it was like a profit thing, making profit.
Yeah.
Well, no, some were racist, wasn't they?
Yeah.
But the neighbour wasn't bad, but there was a lot of racial problem.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them couldn't get places to live.
Right.
So that's why some had to come with money from the Caribbean, so they could buy their own property. Because my mum auntie, she came here in the 50s with the Windrush, and they came with money, so automatically they bought their house as soon as they entered the country, and by buying their house 3-story flat, so what they would do would be, anyone in that area who knows them, and wherever they live, they would always make their address available so that they had a place to stay when they come. And that's where my mom came, and that's where, because my mom was our auntie, and her husband was my mom's cousin, so it was like double family. And she would take his relative, his niece, and nephew would come and stay, and they would sort of double up. They would share one room. They were family, coming and they stay with a big house. And then people who they knew, that was family, friends, would come and stay. And they would pay the rent, you see, and they would save their money. We'd have that group they would have that group where they save money together. No. What they would do, everybody would chip in and say, we all would put £10 for a week, or £20, and then everybody would have a hand. So the hand could be like 500 or 1,000, then they could go and get their deposit and buy a house. And each one would move out. And then another one would do the same, and they would move out. So they bond in together. And that still goes on. That is something that I don't think that will ever die, because they still do it in Jamaica. If somebody wants to buy a property or they want to buy a house abroad, they would chip in, and they save together, and that's what they do. And they move on. If they want to buy a car, they would go in that's what in the Windrush time carried it right until when I came in 60s, 70s, 80s, and that still goes on. And if they want to buy a car, then they put so much, maybe £20, and that would last for, if you check £20 a week, for £1,000, it's like 6 months. So each one would manage to buy whatever they want. They don't use it for anything else. That money has to be like a deposit for a house, or to buy a car, or to build a house in Jamaica. So that's how we build ourselves up, you see. Yes, my mom came in a ship, and she hated it. It was uncomfortable, and things were going off. The ride was terrible. Yeah, it was awful. She came here like 55, 60, 70, or 54, something like that. 8 years later when I came. Yeah, she had lived with her auntie, so she could save the money to buy a property, you see. And that's how she'd do it. She'd buy the house. She and her husband lived together at her auntie. So she could save to buy a house and fetch me over and my auntie, see. No, she came to London. And when we were coming over, she couldn't afford a London property. So then she'd managed to save by living with her auntie. She managed to save enough money to come to Nottingham to buy a property that cost her something like £400.
Oh, yeah.
You see, in Nottingham, there was riot in Nottingham. Yeah, that was because of the racism. Yeah. I think because when Caribbean, West Indian came here, or Caribbean, when they came here, they were, especially the men, in the way they dressed, something like that. It was so fashionable. And they'll make themselves known, you see. And the way they walk with the big hats and the suit, they were well-dressed people. They didn't go to the shop and buy a suit or anything. Everything had to be made by the tailor. You see? And I think it shows that more like they were showing off, but they weren't showing off. It was just what they were used to, you see. And they'll save the money and they buy the big cars, you see. And that's unusual, really. And so that's what they did. And I suppose when they came here, they had the radio loud. I mean, the things they do it now, don't they? Young people do that. You know, but a lot of things, they created their own fashion from back home, you know? And they had loud music. Ever so often the police would raid their music, raid the dance, you know, because they were keeping it in other people's house, you know. Because they wasn't able to go to pub. Yeah, there was racism in the pubs. They'd fight them, you see. Always a fight. So that's why that's right. They create their own pubs because when they have these parties, they have to pay for the drinks. But what they didn't understand, that they were doing this thing to them and they were prospering. Can you see? You know, the money were giving back to each other. So they were actually doing them a favor and they were drawing closer to each other. Because at that time, we would have our hair done. Every week, we'd go to the hairdresser to different parties. Have a different outfit. We would make somebody a dressmaker, you see. So these women came here from Jamaica, wherever country they come from, the West Indies, and they came, and they had trades. They could sew, they could do hair. And so they could make that money, you see, because the job, they were getting lower wages than these jobs that they were doing. Made their own business, they were making more money, you see. So they were doing well. That's why they could afford to buy these big houses, you see. I used to, when I got married, I lived with my husband's brothers. We were going from brothers to brothers. And you have to wait until somebody finished the cooker before you could cook. You had to put the money in the meter, and it would be your turn. No, dear, it was awful. And you'd go to the shop. There was one, because we like the curry, and we wanted the chicken. There was one shop on Woodbury Road. No, Woodbury Road, somewhere like there, around there. And they would sell fresh chicken. And that's what we like, you see, fresh chicken. And we'd queue up. There would be a long queue. And on Saturday you'd go and everybody would want the chicken. And, this guy would clean the chicken, throw the skin away, get the skin out for us, chop it up and give it to us. And we'd be queuing there for ages. And, for a chicken, it was a lot of money, though. You could get 2 chicken for 10 shilling, I think. And but it was tough chicken, really tough. You had to cook it, fry it, and cook it, because you're currying it. So you had to fry it first, and then you cook it, and it would take ages. So that means you put in a shilling in the meter, you'd have to put 2 shilling in. And some houses you went to live in, everybody would be in that kitchen cooking the rice and peas and chicken on a Sunday. And it was lovely because everybody were together and they eating and talking. They didn't have much, but we were happy people. You see, they were happy people. You see. Oh, now I am because now I am. You see, because I am now. Yes, now I am because there's various things change, and since Jamaica went independent, it cuts out. What I'm saying, that the people who used to have money and have a good way of going on, they come out of that race, you see, because there's other things come in. You see, the money making. Oh yeah, because my granny's family, they in the countryside, they used to sell to the market traders. Now that's died out. You see, because only certain people farming and lots of the vegetables are coming from abroad. You see, so that's not on anymore. You see, so that and like my granddad was a joiner, I don't think there would be room for that now because a lot of things people don't value the same thing now. You see. Yeah, this is it, you see. And things are different, really. I couldn't go back to Jamaica and live the life I used to live. And so that's it. But at the time, when I came here, I consider it to be walking into poverty from when I came from Jamaica. And that's what I was shocked of. That is not the same. So, we used to meet together, and when we went to do our hair, there would be other people waiting to have their hair done. So you could make friends and talk to them and things like that. And parties, everybody tells you who's having a party. And sometimes you could go from one party to the next party. They could go all night. There's always a party. You see?